So I'm just going to go over a few different UI elements that we are going to want in our game. And the way that we're going to prepare these files is a little bit different than how it's going to work with our sprites or our animated sprites because of the way that Godot handles UI. So that's going to be slightly different. Oh, I need to share my desktop for this. Let me stop streaming and share screen. Okay. So the components that we're going to be making are buttons for our start menu. So like start the game, go to instructions, restart if you die or something like that. So we'll make those basic buttons, but you can use the same basic concept for like any buttons that you might need in the game. So if you have a game that has more interface components, like if you have some like resources that you have to manage or something like that, you would use essentially the same style of interface elements, but you would have to change the code a little bit. So we'll go over how we're going to export those in a moment. The other thing that we're going to make are titles. So like a big name for the game and maybe some graphic to put in your start menu, and then some instructions for how to play the game. So I'm going to do like, as usual, just very simple, simplified versions of these things. But I'll be going over what's required to sort of use them in Godot. So if you have any questions or want me to pause at any time, let me know. I'm going to go over to Pascal. All right, and so this is where I'm going to be creating the art for my user interface. Going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to start out with my buttons. And what I want to do is make a button template that I can reuse and put different text on. So I can do that either using, just drawing the text directly on the button, or if you want to use a font in Godot, you can do that as well. So I'm just going to save this first. I'm going to go to Save As, and I'm going to go to my art folder. So in my MMP 270 folder, I'm going to go to the art folder, and I'm going to create a new folder for UI. I'll just call this UI. And in here, I'm going to call this button template. And so I'm not actually going to use this for the final art, but I want to save this so I can reuse it from all of my buttons. So I'm going to have button template. I'm going to click save. And then I'm going to change the size a little bit. I want my buttons to be wider than they are tall. So I need to turn off the aspect ratio and change the width to 64. And so now I have a wider canvas for my button style. You don't have to have your buttons be, wider than they are tall, but that's a pretty typical convention. So we're going to go with that for now. And what else do I need to do? I think that's it. So I'm going to save this. And so for our buttons, we have a few different states. We have, when the button is just sitting there, and we can, see examples of buttons all over the place in our UI for Pascal or for any other app that you might be using. So we have the idle state when the button's just there. We have the hover state for when we hover over a button, like we can see this add new frame turns yellow. And then we have the active state. So when I click on the button, something should change. And so that's a way that we can reinforce to the user how the interaction works. So I'm going to make a really simple button. I'm not going to spend a lot of time working on the design here. I'm going to start with a rectangle as kind of a outline, and then add a new frame. And I'm just going to draw on top of this just to kind of match the aesthetic of the rest of my game. So I'm going to take my pen tool. And another thing that you may want to do is use grayscale colors for your buttons, and so that you can change the color of the buttons in Godot. This works better if you use white and black or gray tones for your buttons. So I'm going to use white and black as the main colors for this. And I'll show you guys what that looks like on Thursday. So I'm going to start with just a basic button outline. And I'm going to kind of draw a button. So I'm going to round these corners a little bit. I'm just going to draw the outline. That. and this. And I want to match the style of my game. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. So you guys might want to do something that looks more clean or more sketchy, whatever you think is going to match the best. Fill this in a little bit. And then I'm just going to use the paint bucket and fill that in. Okay. So that's going to be like, my main button. Let's delete this one. And then I can fill in the buttons with different colors. Actually, let's undo the paint bucket that I did so we can just fill stuff in. So I'm going to erase this here. So I'll just use that as an outline, and I'm going to duplicate this a few times for different states. You only really need 3 states, but if you're making something, you might want to be able to give the designer more options when they work on something. So we'll leave this as the regular state, and then I'll fill this one in with the white. That could be a hover state or an active state. We could fill one in with black, so it kind of changes the inside. And then another one that I like to use is like the dither. So if I use the dither here, I have to set the secondary color to white, but then I can fill in with this sort of checkerboard pattern. So that might look kind of cool. Although I think there's some alpha on the, oh no. Okay. Let's turn off the onion. Now we can. So these are just a couple options. You don't have to use these. But we can make these kind of default button states, and you can make more. The more options you have here, the more that, if you're just making the art, whoever you're working with can choose which options they want to use, or you can choose options in the future. I'm gonna fill this in. Fortunately, the dither doesn't have a fill option. Just fill this guy. Uh-oh. Just okay, back to here. Okay. So you don't have to do it black and white. If you have a color that you want to work with, go ahead and use that color. But when we put these into Godot, you'll see you can change the colors using the Godot interface. So we can make different versions of the buttons if we want to. All right, so that's my button template. And then if I just have one button and I just want to put font on top of it, I don't really need to do anything else. But if I want to write text on the button so it matches the style of my game, then I need to create more buttons. So I'm going to save this, but I'm not going to export. And I'm just going to basically write over it. So I'm going to create a new button, and I'll call this the start button. And so I'll save as button start and click save. And so I'll go back here, and I'm just going to write start on here. My handwriting is not great, so it may look kind of bad, but it'll be legible. I'll say start. Oops. So again, this is just if you like, if you want to kind of keep the same style as your art, you don't necessarily need to do it this way, but that looks good enough. So there's our start button. And so now what I can do is I can just copy and paste this onto my other buttons. And I want to make sure it matches as well. So I'm going to take the lasso selection so I can kind of draw around this. And one thing that I have to be careful is that if I paste it directly onto my white button, I'm not going to be able to see anything. So what we can do, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make a new frame and paste this here. And so now I have a frame that just has that text, and I can use the paint pixels tool to paint it black. If I want to use the black one, actually, let's make another duplicate and change that one to black. Okay, so now I have a couple options. So I can go back, take this black one and take my lasso tool. Didn't get all of it there. Okay. So I'll copy that and then just paste it on here, and then paste it here. Although I might need a different color. Although that kind of looks cool. That's kind of an interesting option. Looks kind of weird. It's kind of hard to read, but if it's just like an active state, then maybe it doesn't matter. And then I want my white start for my black button state. And that looks pretty good. You know, you could make more states, you could use colors. There's a lot of different ways that you could do it. But once we have our button for the start, I'm gonna save this and then we'll look at how to export. So with the buttons, as I mentioned, it would be nice to just export this as a sprite sheet, but we can't do that because of the way that Godot works. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna delete these extra starts and then go to export. And I'm gonna go to download. And so for my game, I have this sprites folder. Inside the sprites folder, I might want to make another folder for UI, or I could put a UI folder out here. Let's actually put a UI folder out here. Maybe that'll be a better organization. So I'll put UI here and then go in there. Actually, so I clicked download, but that's not what I want to do quite yet. So I'm going to click cancel. So what I actually want to do is go over to this zip tab. And then what I'm going to do is export a zip file of each frame. So for the prefix, I'll just put UI instead of sprite, and then click download zip. And so I'll put this inside my UI, and this is the button start.zip. And if I click save, what I'm going to do, if I go back to my file explorer, so I'll go to MMP 270, go to art, or no, sorry, I'm going to my game UI. Here I have this button zip. I can't use a zip file in Godot, so I need to extract this. I'm going to right click and go to extract all. And I'm in the right spot, so I'm going to click extract. And so this creates a folder with my buttons in it. And now I can use these in Godot as separate textures. So that way I have them all in the same place. So I can go ahead and delete my zip file. And so there I have my 1, 2, 3, 4 potential button states. There's a few other ones that I could add if I want, but I'm just going to stick with those. And so that's my start button. So, you know, if you want to just use the default template button, you can use that and then put some different text on there. But I'm going to make a couple more buttons using this technique. So I'm going to go back to button start, and I'm going to go to open Pascal files and go to my button template, click open, and now I'm going to save it as. So I need a start button. I need a, what else do I need? Let's check the lab. So I didn't actually say. I guess it depends on what is happening in your game. So make it up. So I need a start button. I need a button like for the instructions, like if you need to look at the instructions. So let's make that. So say instructions, and save as, say okay. It's gonna be hard to fit instructions in here, but let's see, I'll try it. So I'll take my pen and let's see if I can do it. So yeah, let's use this smaller size. Pretty bad. And I'm gonna make it a T. Okay, that's not too bad. I don't know if it's really readable, but hopefully people will know what it means. Anyway, I'm just gonna repeat this process. So I'm gonna grab my lasso and make sure to select all the text. There we go. And I'm gonna copy that, put it on a new frame, duplicate that, and then fill it in with white. Okay. And actually this one should be white too. Although I guess it could be black. It doesn't really matter for that one. So then I'll take the black one and copy and paste here. And then paste here. And then I'll take the white one and put it there. Okay, so now I've got my instructions button. Now it looks exactly the same as my start button. Obviously it has different text on it. So let's do the same thing. Let's export. I want to export a zip. And instead of sprite at the beginning, I want to put UI at the beginning. And I'll click download zip and just save it right next to my other button folder. Okay, so the other buttons I need like a quit button and a restart button. So I'll do those real quick, just go through the same process. So again, I'm gonna browse, oops, not browse. I'm gonna go to browse Pascal files, go to my template, click open. So let's do the quit button next. So I'm gonna draw, oops, N, and I'll go back to the bigger size. Space, so I'll do quit. Okay, it's not really centered, so I'm gonna drag it over a little bit. I'll use the move tool. Oops. I guess I have to put it on a different layer first. Okay, I'll copy that. Let's put a new frame, paste, delete, and let's turn on the onion skin. Okay, that looks good. Let's duplicate that and make a black copy. Then, oops, take the, turn off the onion. Take this copy and paste it here, paste it. And then I'll take the white version, copy, put it here, put it here. I can delete the size. And now I can export. So I'm almost done. I'm going to export this as a zip file again. And I want to remember to put the prefix UI in front of them. So click download zip. And this one is button quit. And I think I forgot to save. So let's go ahead and save as. I don't think I saved before, so hopefully we won't overwrite our template. But if we do, and fix it pretty easily. Okay, so we have our button quit. We have one more button to do. So I'm gonna go back to my template again. And so using a template is a good thing, even if you're not doing buttons. If you're doing any repetitive art that you're gonna use in a game, having a default template for a character with different expressions or other components is a good way to make sure you don't waste a lot of time with your art. All right, last one is restart. So if you lose, you want to restart. So I'm going to do restart. I guess I could do like play again. Do restart. Okay. That looks good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I've got restart. I'm going to select this, copy. So paste it on a new frame, duplicate, fill in the black, and let's go copy it again. So this will go here, and then I'll get the black one, copy that, put it here, here. Okay, now I'm almost done. Oh, whoops, I just saved over my button template. That's okay. So if you do that, actually, let's go over that. So I accidentally overwrote my button template. I'm just gonna save this as button restart, and make sure to actually click save as, because otherwise it doesn't do anything. And I'm gonna export it. So I'm gonna export the zip, use the UI prefix and download the zip, and click save. And now what I'm gonna do, since I overwrote my template, I'm just gonna undo all of this. Okay. And then now I'm gonna save as button template. So I can overwrite the one that I saved. I make that mistake a lot, and so I'm just gonna replace that. So now I'm good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna leave Pascal for a second. And so now we have all these zip folders. And so what I need to do is just extract these. So I need to go to extract all and extract. So there's my instructions button, and quit, extract all, extract, and then button restart, extract all, extract. Okay, so I've got all the buttons I need. Let's delete this. Oh, my button restart has some empty text. So you could delete these. I don't really need to, but I'm just gonna take those out. So now we just need to make some titles. So we've got our buttons all ready to go to put into Godot. So let's add in our titles. So I'm gonna open up Pascal again. And so for this one, you guys can probably make cooler titles than I can using different software. I'm just gonna use Pascal just to keep things simple. But this is a chance for you to, use your more detailed work that you might have made for your characters or other components of your game. So the title screen, it doesn't have to move. It doesn't have to be interactive. It doesn't have to be small or anything like that. You can use this as, kind of a chance to show off a more creative approach. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make something really, really simple. So I'm going to call this UI titles and click save as and save. And so I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'll do like 256 by 256. And here I'm just going to write the name of the game. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on this. It's just kind of an example that we can put into Godot. But one thing I like to do if I'm going to write some text is use these grid lines to make sure my text matches a little bit better. So I can turn the grid on and off. And so if I want to draw some text for my title, it's good to have some grid lines. It'll make it easier to make your title the right size. So I'm just going to do like in the middle here. I'm just going to use the default my game. So I'm not really going to spend a lot of time thinking about a title for this, but you guys can spend more time on yours. This isn't going to give me enough room to draw the whole title. So I may need to make my sprite bigger. So my game, let's change the size. So I'll do 512 width, and we want to move to the right. So there I have a little more space. And so put an M. Okay. So it still looks pretty janky, but the lines helped me a little bit. And I'm gonna just erase in the middle of the A little bit. Okay. Looks kind of weird. Okay, and then for this one, if I want to change the color here, let's center this. Okay, and that looks fine. The my and the game are a little bit too close together, so maybe we can, let's see, the lasso tool and grab this. So I'm gonna cut and then this over. Okay, so now I'll center it again. This looks okay. It's obviously, not perfect, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. So I just have the title for the game. And then I also want to have some art that I can use. So I'm going to add a new frame here. And for this one, I'm just going to put in some art. I'm not going to create original art. I'll just like import some stuff that I've already made for the game. So I'll click on import and browse Pascal files, and I'll go back here and we can add in our character design. So I'll put in this guy, click open. Didn't work. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, those are not Pascal files. Here we go, character design. Okay. Somehow that got rid of my game. All right, let's try importing. I'll just try an image. So I'll browse images, character design, grab this guy, import a single image. All right. Okay. Import. Okay. And let's merge this layer down. Okay, so there's my game art. So I've got the guy. Let's add a couple more things. So I'll import, browse images, go back to the art, let's check out the scenery. I don't have anything in there. I might have to go into my game and get the actual sprites. Cool, so let's put in, let's see, let's put in the bird. We can just leave this in as a sprite sheet. So let's merge this down, and I'm just gonna copy birds, paste them here, paste them down. I'll just add some birds in here, why not? That looks kind of cool. And then let's add in some trees. So again, you can put whatever you want for this. You can add different graphics. I'm just kind of adding in some stuff that I already have. So let's put in these trees. Okay. So I want to merge this layer down and then select these guys and paste them in here and paste them there. And maybe some. Okay. So again, it doesn't really matter that much for this demo, but you guys can spend more time creating the titles for your game. You want to, obviously make something that's going to look appealing for people to play. And so I can actually leave these. The one thing I want to do is I actually want the game text to be white. If it's black, I can't really change the color that easily. But if it's white, I can change the color to whatever I want. So I'm going to make the game text white. And then I'm going to export these as files. So I'm going to go to export and use zip, download zip, and make sure I'm in my UI folder again, and make sure this title is character design for some reason. So let's call this UI titles and click save. So the last one I have to do is my instructions. I'm going to create a new sprite, and I'm going to do a similar thing here. I'm going to make the canvas a little bit bigger, and I'm going to turn on the grid to make it easier to design. So I'll make the canvas 512 by 256 this time. And let's go find the grid. Okay, that'll make it easier. And I'm going to use white again so I can change the color of the instructions if I want to. And so my game is pretty simple. Let's see, I have the arrow keys. So let's maybe draw our arrow keys over here. Maybe I'll increase the grid. Already up to, okay, there we go. Okay, so I'll use each one of these as a key. So let's draw the up key here. Just draw a little key, draw a little up arrow, and then I'll use this one, kind of overlapping. So let's draw it in. So there's my up key. There's my right key. So this may change depending on what you're actually using for your inputs. But this is what I'm using so far. There's the down. Okay. And then I will do my left arrow. Okay. So this is my, I'll put walk here. That's how you walk. And then to jump, use the X key. So I'll put the X key like right here. That's about where it would go on the keyboard. And right jump. Okay, and let's center this. And I'll write instructions up here. So let me get the hand tool and just move this down a little bit. And then I'll just write instruction. And a little bit off. So let's get our selection tool. I'm going to cut and then move and paste. That looks better. So then I'm going to center this. Okay, that looks okay. I actually want to move the jump somewhere else. So I'm going to select the jump, cut, paste, move up here, paste, and let's turn the grid off for a second, see how that looks. Okay, that looks fine. Good enough for a demo. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to the art folder, go to UI, and this is UI instruction. Right? And now I just have to export. This is just one image, so I can just export a PNG for this one. I don't need to make a zip folder. So I'll put it in the UI folder and click save. And I think that's everything I need to do. Let me check my theme folder real quick. So I need to unzip my titles. So I'm going to click extract all, extract. Okay. So I've got everything I need for this assignment. I'm going to delete this. So I'm just going to quickly go over posting this on OpenLab real quick. Before I do that, any questions or any other things that you guys want to try with the UI?
I know like in some games like the mouse also changes like with
Hmm.
the when you open up menus and stuff like that. Is that something that is part of the UI that we could work with?
Yeah, so in Godot, you can add a special mouse, and then you can change that mouse. You'd have to do that through code, but if you wanted to design different mouse states, you could definitely do that. It's easy to add in like a new mouse. Then if you want to change mouse states, I haven't actually done that before, but it's pretty easy to do it with code. So yeah, you could do that.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions? All right. So I'm just gonna post this on the Open Lab. So I'll go over to my browser and find the Open Lab and click the post. And so for this one, I just want to put all of the UI images that I made into the post. So I'm gonna search for the category UI or user interface. Okay, so this is user interface design, and we'll do the layout on Thursday. So I would say my UI buttons and titles. And then I'm just going to drag these in here. So I'm going to go to button instructions, and I have a couple extra guys here. I don't need these, so let's just delete those. And so I think I've showed this before, but if you're dragging these into OpenLab, if you drag them all at the same time, it's gonna know that you're doing that, and it's gonna make a gallery. So that's a good way to kind of display these guys. And so once I add in the gallery, I can change the number of columns. So if I want them all to be next to each other, I can set the number of columns to 4. And then it's pretty obvious what this is. So I don't really need anything else here. I could write captions or whatever, but I think it's pretty clear. So I can do that with each set of buttons. So I'll go to my button start and just drag them in here. Oops. Okay, let's make sure we get that blue line. Okay, I need the little blue line. There we go. And so I'll set the gallery to 4. Okay. And I might want to turn crop images off actually, because it's resizing the images. So I can turn crop images off. Then I have restart. Okay. So I'll change the columns to 4, turn off crop images. And then for my last one, I have quit. And so yeah, you don't have to do all of these. You may have different UIs that you want to use in your game. You may want to create other stuff. You could just put your template on there so you could, for people to use if they want. Then I'm going to put my titles in as a gallery. So 2 columns is fine. Turn off crop images. And then the last one I have is my instructions, which I'll put right here. And so then you can write a little bit about your process if you want to. I'll just say, I wanted to make my UI match the style of my game. So I used the same process in Pascal. Whatever you want to write to explain your process is fine. And I think that's fine. I'm gonna go to preview, make sure it looks okay. And so I use the white here, so it's a little bit hard to view. So I might want to talk about that as well. I could say I'm using white as a default, so I can adjust the color. So once I'm happy with that, I'll click publish. And I can view the post. And so then I have the link, and the notifications are not seeming to, I'm not getting notifications on OpenLab again. So I'm gonna have to, I may be a little behind. I'm gonna catch up on looking at you guys' work this week. But I can still, so, I'll still, obviously I'll just have to go and look at stuff when you post it. So yeah, that is the user interface design. I'm gonna stop recording.